So we're officially live, and I'm super pumped to have you guys in the Facebook group. We're in the SMA Six Figure Sales Secrets Facebook group.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and shoot this link out to the world to let them know that we're live. And what I'd like to do in the meantime is if you guys want to introduce yourselves and just kind of, you know, a little bit about why you're here and just who you are.
Go for it, Jade.
Okay, so I'm Jade, this is Zach. We own Black House Marketing. It is a real estate agency. We've been doing this business for how long now? I guess 2 years now. I guess in the real estate niche for how long?
A year.
A year. And yeah, that's us.
Wow, that was a really quick one.
I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
What'd you guys do before this?
Oh God. I was in construction, so I was actually a construction worker, and I used to do sheet metal, so working with metal, doing like ventilation systems in houses and commercial job sites. So that's what I used to do, and I've always loved like technology and just like working on computers, and I was searching for like online courses to take. Just to figure out how to make money online, because I thought it was something that was super, super cool. And then I got started in a digital marketing course like 3 years ago, basically. And then it took me at least 6 months just to get anything. I got my client like after the first 6 months. And then I met Jade, and we actually became, we just kind of like joined everything together, because she was actually doing, you were like doing like creative marketing agency before lead generation. So
yeah, I worked like before this, I went to university for marketing, and then I worked for a phone company doing sales and marketing. Before I finished my degree, I was doing sales, and then I was doing marketing immediately after I graduated. And then I started doing just like the creative marketing side of things, just for small businesses, doing like social media content management type of stuff. And then I started to realize like this isn't super scalable. I need something that isn't going to be taking me 12 hours a day to be making less than I was making at my job at the time. So that was kind of disappointing at that point when I had quit my job to do that, and then started making substantially less. And then I knew that I wanted to do more of the lead generation type of stuff, but I didn't even know where to start. And then I came across Zach, who was doing lead generation, and yeah, we joined forces.
I like that. The joined forces.
yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
So I'm sure people are going to ask this, because the first thing you guys said is, or Zach, you said it first. So I took an online marketing course.
Yeah.
Like, I always love to hear, like, what was your first online marketing course? And Jade, I'm sure you have one too, right? Online marketing course. So were you a part of the Ty Lopez trend, or like, what was the first course you guys took?
If you guys know Jeff and Jessica Samus at the Profit League, I started with them, like pretty much 3 years back now. And like, I got started through them, and it was great. Like, they honestly show you how to run Facebook ads, build funnels, a little bit about like prospecting and stuff like that. And just kind of like walk you through like all their scripts and stuff in order to close clients. And that was pretty good to get my feet wet for sure. And then since then we've taken
so many
courses. So it's been great. Yeah. But I'm really thankful that they got me started in this whole world. And then it seems like as we have more and more problems, we go and just solve them, basically.
Yeah, every time we have a problem. I never actually took any courses. I was one of those people that was like, I'm not taking any courses. I can DIY all of this. And then I realized later on that was terrible. And then Zach and I started buying courses together. And I think that we've probably done, 10 courses. Any of the like mainstream ones, like we did Grant Cardone University, Donald Miller's. Those are kind of like the more mainstream, larger ones that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
I like the smaller ones personally. Like, I like when it's a smaller group and it's not, commercialized selling. So yeah.
Commercialized selling. Yeah, good point. So when did the pivotal point happen where you're like, you know what, I'm done with courses. I'm going into more like small group mentorship, like to work with people that can work with me through this?
I think that would have been like this December, right? Because
Yeah,
we bought a whole bunch of courses all in a row, and it was like, okay, we're done with the courses. We've taken enough courses. Like, we need someone to like hold our hands and help us.
mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah, it looks like some other people here on the thread too. Joining force support your daily mission, and yeah, it's a huge thing, guys. Like, was that a big deal for you when you both came together? Have you noticed it was easier, harder when? Because I know right now the dynamic, because you guys are together, right, in a relationship, and also together in business. Like, holy crap! So hold on, walk me through how you guys do that.
We try and not murder each other every day, so like that's kind of a thing.
You have like a chalkboard, you're like, hasn't been murdered today. We're on day like this.
Yeah, and like one day I'll quit, and then the next day Zach quits. So like one of us is always quitting the business, usually me. But yeah, it has its struggles, because I mean you're sitting there fighting about the business, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we got to make supper. So can we just like clean slate? Let's move on with our lives.
I think the hardest part about this whole like our business, and maybe other people's too, that there's lots of like coaches and other things like that who do stuff together. And I think the hardest part is just disconnecting when you work from home. So like recently we moved out to Vegas, and it's kind of nice because we're living here for the winter. And now we kind of have like our office set up like upstairs, so it's like easier to disconnect. But it's like we have to like have like clear cut rooms basically in our living situation, where it's like, okay, when we go in here, it's just business. And when we leave, we try not to talk about the business, even though we do all the time.
Which is hard. So I feel like you almost burn out, because it's like you go out for supper and all of a sudden you're excited about something in the business. So it's all you talk about. But then you're like, I need to shut this off. I can't talk about this any longer.
Right. And man, yeah, just in the community in general, like you find yourself only talking about that within our community, right? A lot of times. So it's almost like, how do you not be that? So do you guys have like set boundaries? And I know this might sound like really detailed questions. I remember, because I was in a relationship, right, where we were both same business. We didn't work together, but we were in similar businesses, online stuff. And we talked about work all the time. And then we'd be like, we're not doing it. And then somehow it get brought back up. So how do you guys actually hold to the boundaries, and how do you guys find other things to do together that like preserve the quality of your relationship outside of work?
We like, our boundaries are pretty bad. We haven't really mastered that part yet.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, work in progress. One of the big things though, like we found, because where we live in a very small city, and it's in Canada, like where we're from. And so one thing that we found really challenging was when it's -40 outside and you work from home and there's absolutely nothing to do in your city. We found that really, really, really hard. So one thing was actually just moving to Vegas, where you could, I mean, go and do anything you want. That was huge for us, because now it's like, okay, let's disconnect. Let's go do something else. We're not confined to this, 1,500 square foot house where our office is just everywhere. So now we're in a bigger house, we're in a bigger city, there's more stuff to do. So we found ways to, I guess, distract ourselves from not talking about work all the time. It's hard, but I think changing our environment had a fairly good impact on it. I find that we don't talk about work as much because we can go do Topgolf, or we can go bowling, or we can just go and do something that's going to force us to talk about anything different.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Zach, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think just mostly like for Jayde and myself, we do everything together. We're basically together all the time. So it's definitely a bit of a struggle as far as like always wanting to talk about business and being super excited, especially when we blow up and like have a great day or something. It's like all we want to talk about.
Which we're going to talk more about here.
But I think for us, it's like, yeah, like we go swimming like probably like 5 times a week, and like hot tubbing, and then working out at our gym, and just doing stuff where it like forces us to focus on something else, whether that's health and fitness, and or going bowling, or going to Topgolf and stuff like that. So
yeah, I love that. That's awesome. I know a lot of people watching this are going to take a lot out of this call, guys, by the way. So I really appreciate you being like transparent. This will also be up on YouTube. So more people will come and see this and be like, damn, that's power couple. No, I'm kidding. Obstacles. That's awesome. You guys are goals. That's pretty cool. So I know you brought this up, blowing up. So we're going to talk about that here in a second. And I'm really excited for everybody to hear it. So the whole, like the big part of this live that I want everyone to take away from, besides the fact that this is what a power couple looks like and the dynamic and stuff. What does the journey look like to go from 0 to 20,000, from 20,000 to 50, from 50 to 100,000? So I know you guys are in that journey right now. So I'd love to hear what it looked like starting out for you, what that felt like. Because I know that was probably some time ago. You said like a year, something like that?
Yeah.
6? So let's hear what that sounded like first, and then we'll kind of like, move on and see where we're at now.
Sure. Do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I'll explain it. When we first started like joining forces and doing like lead generation, we were generalists. And I think that was like one of the hardest things to do, because I was still working a full-time job. Jade was already quit her job and was doing like content and stuff for other businesses. So then we like basically removed all of Jade's clients and we're like, okay, we're only focusing on one thing. And then we were barely making any money. And then I quit my job on top of that and was living on top of my.
I forced him to.
Forced me to, by the way. I quit my job. I'm like, hey, we're gonna go prospect businesses. And then we continued to have 2 people live off of like $3,500 a month, which was like absolutely brutal. And then I don't know what happened, but like a combination of our efforts and just like continuously prospecting and spending all day, like just trying to get clients. We eventually got to $10,000 a month. And that's when we started kind of dabbling in mortgage and real estate industry. So we got to 10K a month, and then we like hovered there for a while. It was like 4 months. We tried doing paid ads a couple times,
Failed.
Lost a bunch of money.
Failed so bad.
And then after that, we really honed in our like LinkedIn game like crazy. And we were closing 6 clients a month off of LinkedIn between the 2 of us. But the problem was we were selling month to month. So then it became this other rat race of trying to get people on long-term contracts. And that was a struggle for us. And then we kind of figured it out. We were slowly getting people into 3-month commitments. And then that's when we got up to 20K. And then from there, we were stuck at 20K for a while. I don't know if you want to explain.
Yeah, we were at 20K for probably 4 or 5 months, I want to say. And it was just, we would lose a whole bunch of clients and then we'd pick up clients and then we'd lose clients and then pick up clients. And like, we had a whole bunch of like weird things happen to us with like our ads manager account and stuff. So like I think it was in November, we lost pretty much every single customer because we literally couldn't advertise. But we just put our noses down and we picked it right back up. So we were able to stay steady. I think it was from basically September to November, or no, even December. It was 25K months across the board consistently. And then what really hurt us was we started doing paid ads. Our paid ads were working. We were getting a ton of meetings, like booking meetings like crazy, but we weren't closing anything. So then we stayed there. So it was like, okay, so we weren't paying anything and we were at 25K. Now we're doing paid ads. We're still staying at 25K and nothing's changing. And that's when it was like, okay, like now what? Because we feel like we have done everything in our process has been broken. And now we just need to figure out like, what's next? What do we need to fix? So it was almost like, this is our final piece. If we fix this piece, we have it somewhat figured out. And then we figured out the broken piece, and then that brought us here.
Yeah.
A phone call with you, I guess.
That's all. And we'll talk about that too in a sec. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually want to backpedal real quick, because I know a lot of people are watching this and they're probably thinking like, man, 20K a month, whoa, like creeping up to doing 100K a month, like that's so much. Like, how hard was it? And really, you guys started a year ago. You think about it, like, so it's taken you a year to go from like, you had this like 4-month, from the sounds of it, you had this 4-month spurt where you're stuck at around 10K. And then another like 4-month spurt, you were stuck at around the 20K. right? So that's 8 months of the entire journey right there. And we're just in it for a year. So in the span of like 4 months, it sounds like from you guys focusing on that, that's when you went from like 20 to now like you're at 60 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
60.
Yeah. Looking to creep up on that 100. So just for people watching this live right now, and then, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube on the replay, just for a little bit of context, like don't get too caught up in I'm only doing this much. Just focus on your process, which it sounds like you guys did. You kept looking into like what's broken. You fixed one thing at a time. And then when you fixed it, the next thing broke.
Yeah.
And then you fixed that. And that's what, I mean, from what I'm hearing, would you say that that's what made you like the most successful in what you're doing?
Yeah, because I feel like there's so many times where we could have just given up and been like, this part's broken. We tried paid ads, it didn't work. We tried manual outreach, it kind of worked. And I feel like if we weren't resilient and just trying to fix those pieces, no matter what it was going to cost us, whether it was time or money or whatever, we knew that as we keep moving towards, you know, our, not our final goal, but a bigger goal, I feel like that helped us a lot. Because there's so many times a person can just give up and just think this isn't working, this isn't for me, and feel sorry for themselves. Because I know we felt sorry for ourselves a couple times where we were like, how are all these other agencies doing this? We're doing the exact same thing they are. Like, what is our problem and why can't we do this? Because there's other people from our other groups where a year ago we started at the same point and they just skyrocketed. And we're like, why us? Like, what are we doing wrong? Like, it feels like we're doing everything the same. And yeah, that was hard to not just sit there and feel sorry for yourself. It was, what are we going to fix to move the needle forward?
Yeah, and I freaking love listening to this. And I don't know if everyone else is listening to the same details I am, but what I hear is like, first of all, a year is fast. Like a year is really fast to go from, you know, 0 to 100K a month. Okay, so I mean, I know for a fact I didn't go from 0 to 100K a month in my first year. Like it took till year 2 to finally like figure out like what the heck is wrong. And I think your guys' accountability sounds like it's really helped a lot in that process with you doing it this fast. And the other thing is, and this is the part I love the most, is that you've normalized it to such an extreme that you're just like, why is everyone else moving so fast? When in reality, like you guys are over the 50K a month line and you're still feeling that way.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah, that's going to make you fucking great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we just had a talk with the team about the same thing, like normalizing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, let's hit the new PR, let's hit the new goal, and then let's normalize it. Let's do it again. So I absolutely love that mentality with you guys and dealing with that. So what else would you say is going on this month? Because now we're going from the 50K to 100K. So where would you say the pieces were that you fixed that made this possible or is making this possible right now?
The biggest pieces, I would say, I guess more recently or going way back to when things started to really get momentum. Which part of that question?
Tell me more.
So
can I share something? When I noticed you guys coming into the program last month?
Sure.
So I want to hear your details and stuff behind it. But when you guys jumped into the art of sales last month, and I heard you told me you're booking so many appointments, which by the way, is a great problem to have, to book a lot of appointments and then to not have them close. It sounded like you fixed 2 things from what I heard, but I'd love for you to expand on it. But number 1, small tweak in your offer. And the second one was just changing a few words in your sales calls. And it sounds like once you guys fix those 2 things, like deals started just like flowing in. Now, granted, you know, we got you another closer in your company now, which we can talk about in a minute, but it sounds like those 2 things were the dramatic instant change.
Yeah, I can expand on that. One of the biggest things was changing our offer was huge. Our offer was just super confusing and we knew it was confusing. And yet for some reason we were just resisting it and saying, it's our sales process. It's our sales process. So we learned how important just a clear offer was. And we had no idea that was like a huge building block. And then the other thing was with our sales team, and nothing against like, again, the commercial selling thing, but like a lot of our sales team came from commercial selling. So like the big guys that were selling I don't know how to say it. You use the word vanilla selling, which I like. The sales style was just kind of like almost old school and just everyone's heard it before. So, oh, it's another one of these sales calls. I feel like that was hurting us a lot. And then making those tweaks in our language and how we were approaching things, I think has made a huge difference. Because I've always kind of sold like that, but to go and tell my sales team, like, hey guys, you can't keep using the same objection handling techniques that everyone and their dog is using. You just sound like a car salesman from 1995. So I think those were huge. And when they started to hear it from you, it was a lot different than me being like, hey, stop doing this. So I think that had a fairly large impact on it as well.
Yeah, I think it's hard for them maybe it's just hard for them to listen to us sometimes because we don't have any sales experience, even though we've been selling for our own company for a year. But like, just, we don't have any experience from anyone who's like known in the industry, or we don't have experience from it, like just an extensive like sales background. So I think like when you came in and we brought our whole team onto the calls, it was a much easier transition for them, and they were getting all the answers that they were looking for that we may not have had the answer for as well too.
Mm-hmm. I think that helped a lot, and just having that like different authoritative voice come in, because we almost hired them as the experts, and then so it was almost like they were advising us, so then it was hard to be like, hey, so this is how I sell it. But then when we had you come in and be like, okay, I am the sales authority, I think that made it like a huge difference in everything.
Damn, that is exciting. First of all, thank you. That was really awesome. Not scripted at all, guys. Like, that was really cool. So what do you feel like other habits, because we'll get into the actual sales reps in a sec, and I definitely want to spend a little bit of time talking about that, because that's a huge deal, obviously, in business. What kind of daily performance habits do you guys do every day that help you keep your head on straight? Because you already talked about before, like, man, one of us wants to quit one day, the other wants to quit the other day. We both almost wanted to quit before. So what kind of daily performance habits do you do to keep your head on straight?
I think this is a tough one for sure for us to answer. We try our best to we always want to make sure that we're waking up as early as possible, whether that's 6:30 or 7, should be even earlier at 6. We'd like to get up. But that's one thing important, especially living in Vegas, because everyone's 3 hours ahead of you. So it's like you're having to do team meetings at like 7 a.m. That kind of sucks. But so that's definitely one. Consistently going to do physical activity, whether that's working out, going swimming, stuff like that. I really like swimming, so that's why I say that. Just like when you're frustrated about something, just stepping away and like just going for like a walk, or like to clear your head. Like, don't like sit there and be frustrated all day, because like that, all of that's just temporary, and it's because of growth that you're frustrated about something. I think that's like a really important thing, and just like trying to like just really focus on everything that's happening like right now, rather than just like always like talking in your own head and like listening to your own voice in your own head kind of thing.
Damn, I like that. Yeah, there's some days where I'll be sitting at the computer, and it's kind of dull sometimes in Kansas City. And of course, I picked a place with natural light, but when there is no natural light, you're just sitting in a room with lights. It's all foggy. Anyway, it's horrible. So yeah, getting up and walking, like, I love that. Jay, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I'd say that kind of summarizes a lot of it. I'd say another important thing too is eating habits. I find that if we're eating terribly, for me personally, it just makes me sluggish. So like trying to eat relatively healthy, we do HelloFresh. So that we have.
I was thinking about doing that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started doing that like 4 months ago, and actually that's a really good point. The reason we started doing it is because we never could decide on meals, and we hated going grocery shopping. It's a waste of time. So we just order everything to our house just to save time, not have to communicate about like, oh, what do you want to eat? What do you want to eat?
One
like, it's just, yeah, it's just there. So that's actually been a huge help in our relationship and our business. So
Yeah, we try and if there's something that we're going to fight about in like the normal world, we try and figure out, okay, how can we solve this issue so that we have less decisions and less things that we can potentially have conflict over. So having things like, yeah, having HelloFresh delivered, knowing what we're going to be eating for supper and somebody else has figured that out for us. What we also like to do, and we're not as diligent about it as we should, but planning out like fun activities to do throughout the week just to stop us from constantly working. And then we know that we have something else to look forward to. I think those help.
yeah.
And that's awesome. Have you guys read the book, The Perfect Day Formula?
No.
Mm-mm.
You guys would love that book. Could read it together, bedtime story, I don't know. Great book. Actually, the calendar map and a lot of the identity map we have in the Art of Sales program was inspired by that book.
Okay.
Killer book. But yeah, I love that you brought that up because I was talking to the team about how you want to have that perfect day. And I was doing Flex Pro actually at the time, which is like, HelloFresh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. HelloFresh. I got it. Anyway. So I stopped doing it because I was like, you know what? I love cooking and I read the Perfect Day Formula. You need to add things in your week that make you fulfill that are not like work or whatever related. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start cooking again. And a few weeks in, I end up not going to the grocery store. So I have like no food in the house. I didn't even have time to cook and I felt malnourished. So I was like, well, this backfired pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy how much time you waste just like cruising around the grocery store, and then you never end up doing it because it's like such a pain, right? So
it goes expires.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just end up ordering junk food, and then you feel sluggish for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it just throws you out.
Yeah, that's hilarious and very true. So awesome. So we'll kind of go back to your sales team. So right now, you now have how many people on your sales team?
Technically, we have 4, but we have 3 that are actually taking calls, and then one that's just kind of acting as like the rover in case the other guys get, I don't know, too many calls or get stuck on a call or whatever.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've not heard that reference. I like that. And in case you guys are wondering, like he's also setting appointments, right?
Yeah, he's doing a bunch of like administrative stuff as well too, like just keeping on track of like what's actually happening with appointments and stuff like that. So he's just kind of being literally our team rover. He's kind of just jumping into every single role when he needs to. So it's kind of nice to have that so that we have that backup so that we can, not have to work 16-hour days every day.
Yeah.
Right. So I absolutely love that you guys chose to do that. That's really powerful. Did you have an executive assistant before?
No, it's always kind of just been us. We have a VA, but he really doesn't do any type of like administrative stuff for us at all. He used to do like appointment setting and stuff like that. So it's been a breath of fresh air having someone to help with that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Well, that is really great. Yeah. So as you guys have seen, kind of with our styles, so I'm really big on slow to hire, quick to fire. Right.
I'm gonna go nuts. 1 second.
Okay.
I think they're good.
You good?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. You need to jump in and TO a deal?
I think they're good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Gotta say if you need to, I'm all about it. But anyway, yeah. So I really love that you guys chose to do that. And for context, anybody watching this. So anytime somebody falls short of a metric, we actually just part ways with them on the team. And what you guys did was a great move to where you found another opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Having that long conversation, that hard conversation, because a lot of times that's what people don't want to have, and the hardest part is being able to separate that emotion from the numbers in business. So I thought it was awesome that you guys chose to move in that direction and make that work. So that's a really great business move.
Yeah, it was nice that we didn't have to retrain someone that we'd already trained on our product and our service. And they kind of recognized too, like they were kind of falling behind, and eventually they want to get back into doing sales if they can. So we're letting them, I shouldn't say letting, but they're still doing like our free, like our organic calls and stuff like that, just to practice and stuff. But yeah, it kind of worked out for all of us.
That's awesome. Love that. So a next piece that I noticed when you guys came in January, that sounds like it made a huge difference. was the tracking sheets and having like detailed tracking. How does that feel to be able to have that and be able to look at that and see that?
It's helped a lot because like what we were noticing before, and it's not, we don't update it as often as we should. We're not doing it every day, but we should. Our sales guys are, so that's good.
Okay.
But one thing that we were noticing is that our team is coming to us and saying our no-show rate is so high, like I can't get anyone on the phone. And then when we actually go and look at our no-show rate, we're like, well, according to industry standard, from what we hear, ours is actually not bad. So it helped us not try and fix things that weren't broken. So that's been huge, just being able to like see the full picture of, okay, this is what's actually happening, because just because someone has a bad day and says, I don't know, just says whatever's happening, we can at least look at the numbers and determine if we actually need to fix that problem or if someone's just, you know, having a bad day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's huge. I actually love what you just said there. Try to not fix something that isn't broken.
Yeah, I think we were so often taking feedback from our guys and then like actually like going out and trying to make decisions, but it's like we had no data to support it. It's just like, oh, okay, well, this Friday nobody showed up to their calls, but it was also Valentine's Day and it was the weekend and why would anyone take calls on that day, or even, you know what I mean? So it's like, well, maybe it was just a one-off thing where it's like a stat or like a special holiday, and that's the reason why nobody showed up to their calls.
Yeah, it's helped us not try and focus on things that don't matter a lot, because we used to do that. Like we would start looking at, okay, so our no-show rate's really high. What else can we do to fix it? And then we would have customers come back and be like, you're harassing me too much before I book a meeting. So now it's like, we're not going to go and do that. Another example is that the feedback that we were getting from our sales team was telling us that we needed to change our survey and change the way that we were doing things. So we did, and then we tested it and realized, nope, the way that we were doing it is actually way better than our, like what everyone is suggesting. So we're just going to stick with the old method of doing things, and we're not going to change anything there because it just, from a numbers perspective, doesn't make any sense.
I absolutely love that. And that's all on point. And just for context, for anybody that doesn't have a sales team yet, that's watching this, it's really important to understand what Jayde and Zach are talking about and the point of this conversation, because it's the exact same as if you were fixing a Facebook ad. Like you wouldn't go in, and if it's not working, you wouldn't say, you know what, trash the whole thing, put up a whole new thing. Mm-hmm. You go and you fix one thing at a time, the headline or the ad copy or the creative. But you don't go in, you just trash the whole thing and start over. So what you're talking about here is the exact same. So for anybody watching this that doesn't have a sales team, that's the correlation here. It's the same thing as if you were fixing a Facebook ad. Sales team. So that's awesome. So the other thing is bringing a sales rep onto your team. It can be kind of a scary thing. I know you guys have gone through that 3 times now. This is your 3rd time?
I think it's 4, because we originally started, because like the original 4 that we have is the 4 that, or no, 5. We let one guy go. One didn't make the cut. And that's just because he talked to us too much, honestly.
Oh, sad.
But yeah, bringing someone on is extremely challenging, or at least for us. So we are constantly creating SOPs to try to train them as much as possible, and adding videos to our SOPs so we can explain what's going on, because our offer was changing quite a bit. So like the original stuff that we were originally training people on didn't make a lot of sense. So like we're constantly updating things to make their training process easier. And it's just hard sometimes, because you do have to spend a lot of time with someone who's brand new, even if they have 5, 10, 15 years of sales experience, because they have to come in and learn your product, and then they have to learn how you're selling it. But once they learn those couple things, like the results are fairly instant, because they're like, instead of it taking someone a month to close the deal, they can turn around and do it. And I think the person you brought us, Robb, that they closed the deal on their 4th day. They closed 2 deals on their 4th day, actually. So, and it just took a few 2-hour-long role plays with Jayde, and he was good to go.
Yeah, and we also do team meetings twice a week as well, and sometimes those team meetings go on, like they can be kind of long. So that's one thing that we noticed that also made a huge impact, is doing those team meetings, and like not only building like the rapport and, I can never say this word, camaraderie with your team, but like also giving them that information so that when things are changing, it's not just a text message or whatever. It's we go through it as a full team together, and I think that that's made a pretty big impact and increased a little bit of like the competitiveness, which is always kind of nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, awesome. So first of all, again, guys, I appreciate like the kind words and stuff and the transparency on the experience. That's huge. We really like to pride ourselves on that onboarding piece. That's really good. So I'm really excited to hear that that is what happened for your experience. So we had a couple questions here, which are going to be a total you thing because we don't deal with this side of the business. But it is it's so important when you are scaling fulfillment. So everybody talks about, and if anybody doesn't know, we only deal with traffic and sales. Those are two things we like to work on in terms of fulfillment. Obviously, we have fulfillment. We have an operations director that does that stuff, but I don't like to teach it because it's a whole different ballgame. Mm-hmm. So somebody said here, are you doing fulfillment in-house or are you outsourcing? I know what you guys are doing, but I would love for you to explain it the way you guys know how you do it to everyone watching here.
Sure. So I'll tell you how we used to do it and how we do it now. Actually, yeah. So we used to do it where Zach and I doing all of the fulfillment and trying to do the sales and basically trying to wear every single hat. And that was insane. And then we outsourced to a white label agency to do our fulfillment. We did that for quite a few months. But then what we were noticing is we just had complete loss of control. We couldn't communicate with our white label agency as good as we would have liked. And I just felt like there was kind of a lot of holes in that process. And we didn't like that we had no control over what was happening. The other thing too was it was hurting our margins really bad to work with a white label agency because they're typically an agency of their own. So then what we did is because we had a couple different white label agencies that we worked with, but one of our white label agencies, we actually just brought him in-house and just said, here's basically the profit sharing that you're going to get out of the company. That way we can protect our margins. We can work together more as a team. Mm-hmm. And then you can kind of build your team out underneath of you. So he kind of just manages his fulfillment people that he has underneath of him. But yeah, now it's all just under Blockhouse. Same thing with even like our appointment setting that we have. We've brought everything in-house. We just find that it's easier to manage. But if I had to give someone advice, I would say doing it kind of the way that we did it wasn't really a bad idea to do the whole go to a white label agency first, figure out your systems, and then if you can later on just to make your margins better, bring it in-house. I don't know, that worked for us. I liked that.
Yeah, and it allowed us to get really creative with our offers too, because we just had complete control over that side of our business. Jayde and myself, well, a little bit myself, I handle a little bit of the fulfillment as far as like guiding processes and like how to make things faster. I actually turned his turnaround time from like 4 hours or 6 hours to build a campaign down to an hour and a half. So it's been really fast that way. But that's where I work with him. It's just like managing time. And then I'm also helping him train his VAs, which we went and found for him. But yeah, I think utilizing a fulfillment team when you're first getting started really helps because you can use their testimonials. And then as you get more and more confident, maybe you run like 1 or 2 campaigns yourself, just to kind of, learn it and get all those systems down. And then you can start bringing people in or even going out and finding talent and bringing them in to your business and giving them a certain cut of that, of course. But yeah, it really does help as far as like the margins on everything.
I love that. So if you guys have any questions about that, it looks like, yeah. So if you guys have any questions about that, if you're watching this live on Facebook, just put them in the comments. I really appreciate that answer, guys. That makes a ton of sense. That's always the first question people ask when they want to start an agency. Do I need to learn to do this? Because people are selling the Facebook ads, courses, all that stuff. Or should I just like be good at sales and outsource it all? So I think that was a really great answer. At what point did you guys determine, you know what, I want my margins to be better. I want to systemize this in-house. At what point did you guys decide that from a revenue margin?
I think we started that at the end of November. So that would have been when we were around 25,000. And it was just getting ridiculous because as we were scaling, just like the way it was set up, like we were just losing so much money because we were spending so much on ads. And then anytime we closed something, we had to turn around and give almost half of it away. So it was like our cost to acquire a client was like, I don't know, at that time it was like $1,500. And then we would turn around and close like let's say like a $2,000 retainer. So that leaves 500, and then we would pay it out. So it's like we wouldn't make any money until like 2.5 months in, technically, like on paper. And that was like super difficult as far as like trying to run paid ads and acquire clients that way.
Damn, nice. Yeah, that would be I would imagine that would be a big headache.
Yeah.
So the challenges are going to be different when obviously you're outsourcing, you're doing in-house. So what were the differences and challenges when you guys first started doing stuff with outsourcing, and then what did it turn into doing in-house?
When we were doing it in-house, when it was just us, we were trying to do everything. So we couldn't focus on prospecting and sales and running the campaigns all at once, because it was just too much, and we couldn't really get good at anything. I mean, Zach was really good at running the campaigns. I was always good at doing the creative. But then our sales was actually falling because we weren't practicing getting good at sales. We weren't practicing prospecting. We weren't doing anything like that. When I say practicing, I mean actually just doing it. So it just felt like we were just trying to do this balancing act. So then having someone come in and do the fulfillment for us, because the way that we were thinking about it was, if you get really good at fulfillment, you're limited in terms of where you can go and your transferable skills. So then what we said was, well, if we get good at sales, we know, I think it was Greg Cardone that said it, if you get good at sales, you can go anywhere, or you can do anything, and you can go anywhere. So then we're like, we got to get good at sales. We have no other choice at this point. So we're like, okay, it makes the most sense to get the fulfillment out of our house. And then what we're going to do is we're going to focus on our sales skills. So then we were able to do that. And that, I don't know, made a pretty big difference for us, just because it was freeing up our time. So then we could focus 100% on prospecting. And then we got that momentum that we really needed. But then when we switched to doing the paid ads, that's when it became super important, if we wanted to scale, that we were going to need the cash flow for the ads. So we needed our margins to be at a certain point that it made sense for us to continue to run the paid ads. Because when we were doing organic and it didn't cost us anything but time to fulfill a customer, our margins were quite a bit better, because we didn't have that cost per client acquisition to worry about. Then with paid ads, we had that cost per client acquisition to worry about. Plus we weren't closing at, like our closing rates were really low. So our costs were even higher. So then we were finding ourselves cash flow negative, and we couldn't really get ahead. So that's where we really needed to figure out, okay, what's happening? How can we make this better for ourselves? And how can we make this, mutually beneficial for everyone involved, so that we can continue to move the needle forward and not be low on cash every single month.
So love that. And guys, if that just freaked you out, you're like, oh my God, cash flow negative. Like, hold on, guys, it's totally normal. Everybody goes through it. Everybody I know that is doing well in business eventually hits some type of cash flow negative as they've been growing. Even I did. Beginning January of 2019, freaked me the hell out, because I brought in too many people at once. I flew people in that I knew, and I was like, let me do the in-house thing. So I flew everybody in. We did 42 grand that month, and we had 45 go out, put in 42. And then I was like, something's not right here.
Yeah, we've been there. Our first tax year, we were like negative. Mind you, like you get to write off some things that are kind of questionable. But yeah, we were cash flow negative our entire first year in business, our first, I guess, tax year in business. So we've been there and we get it. But I mean, sometimes you can use that cash flow to, move things forward if you need to. But then at some point you got to be like, okay, let's be profitable. But the second you get profitable, then you're battling taxes. So it never ends. It's just one thing after another.
Yep. Dan, I love this interview. So guys, if you're watching this, whether you're starting out or you're growing, like, it's okay to run into obstacles. You will continue to run into obstacles. They will continue to change. Like you're listening to Jay and Zach right now. This experience is real. I'm saying you're going through it. So what do you feel like the challenges are right now as you ascend from because you guys are in the final stretch. I mean, we got 9 days left. Hit that 40,000, clear that $40,000 gap and hit 100K. So what are the challenges right now?
My biggest challenge, I don't know if my challenge is the same as yours. Mine's fear. Now it's like, okay, we're growing. We have all these customers. And it's like, when we close a deal, instead of getting excited now, I'm like scared. So I'm trying to battle like why am I getting scared when we're closing deals? Like, what's actually happening, and why am I being like that? So then I feel like it's just like I don't know, my success limiter is just reaching its like red line, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go, turbocharge this or something. I don't know anything about vehicles, so it's a bad example, but yeah, it's very much like I'm hitting that like, oh shit, like we're moving forward, like we're doing things. So now I'm trying to just figure out like, okay, stop being like that, stop kind of putting that ceiling on your success. So
Yeah, I think right now the hardest part is onboarding and kickoff calls for us, and fulfillment is definitely getting bogged down a bit. So I've been jumping back into that and a lot more than I would like to be. So like my time is just like yeah, we're closing all these clients, making all this money, it's great. But I'm struggling with my time management now because I feel like I'm working a lot more each and every single day. So we're in the process of trying to hire more VAs, and I'm right now the biggest struggle is I'm trying to figure out how I can delegate my role down a level and just get someone to help me with the onboarding and kickoff calls, and then the management of clients and expectations a little bit. So that's definitely the biggest struggle right now, is just like trying to make sure that like we can fulfill everything. Like that's 100%. We can do that, but like trying to stay on top of the clients that we're fulfilling for and make sure that they're leveraging the results that we're getting. So that's one of the hardest things, is going back and doing those follow-ups with all the clients that we're bringing in.
mm-hmm.
Dang, I love that. And that's cool to see how different the two different challenges you both see. And even though Zach was like, ha ha, Jay, that's not a challenge. Ha ha ha. Like, I'm like, oh, it's hilarious. That's really cool to see that dynamic and the change in that and the difference in that. So we have to get ready to hop off in like 4 minutes. I do have another call, but there is definitely one more question that I know people just starting out are definitely want to know, because you guys are now doing really well. Even though you've normalized it, you are doing really well. So if you were to start completely over, what would be your first step?
Oh man. What would I do?
Relive the nightmare, but if you were to start.
I guess I would say like, I would put things into steps. Number one step is I would learn how to book meetings as quickly as I possibly can and make that kind of my first priority. The next step that I would say is learn how to sell would be kind of the next one. And worry about fulfillment and learning how to run campaigns last, because you can always outsource it. I would say those are your two main things. And then learn your customer. So if you're going to find a niche right away, niche or however you say it, I say niche, find out exactly what their needs are. Really get to know your market, because you're never going to be able to craft an offer until you actually know what they need. And I feel like a lot of people run into this trying to focus on too many things in the wrong order. And like, for example, us, we wanted to run a VSL a year ago. We didn't know anything about anything. And we didn't understand our customers' problems. And then we did run VSLs and they just failed because we had no idea what we were doing. So I would say like finding that niche, finding out what they need, learning how to actually book meetings with them organically, talking to them on the phone, learning how to sell, worrying about fulfillment is kind of a last resort, and then going from there.
Yeah, I would say definitely the first thing I would do is get a blueprint from someone, whether you're paying for mentorship or just an hour of someone's time. Get a blueprint from them, then work on who you're going to serve and what problems you can solve for them, and then get the messaging down for that, and then start booking meetings with them. So many meetings and book meetings at the same time, because people are going to no-show you. So then you have an extra 50% chance to talk to someone. When we were first doing the whole organic thing, we would book 3 meetings at the same time, because people would just no-show, and then it would be like, oh, okay, cool. Well, we got 2 out of 3, so it's like that's great. And then learn how to sell to those people. Yeah, basically everything Jade just said, and just make sure you're writing content that's relevant, and it's all going to go back into the ecosystem.
Yeah, I love that. Well, that is the end of this interview, but guys, that was awesome. Hope everyone watching live got a lot of, value out of this, and hopefully a lot of aha moments. because I mean, this was from like the inception of business to scaling to 100K and all the challenges and success in between. So really awesome. So I appreciate you guys jumping on. And oh yeah, if you're watching this on Facebook, just like the video. Like we've had a few dozen people on the whole time. Like the video, help us out. You know, expand the reach a little bit. Jesus, guys, good Lord. Like help us out. We do these for free. So expand the reach. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, write a comment, help us expand the reach so more people can view this. And then obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, I put a bunch of cool stuff in the descriptions. Go check it out. So I appreciate it, guys. And I'm going to hop on the coaching call in the art of sales if you want to join me. So.
I can't. Let's see.
All right. Later, guys.